This is Worldview. I'm Mark Owen. Thank you for being with us here this Monday evening. Israel's army is occupying a hospital in Gaza City. A military assault on the al-Shifa site was carried out overnight. Israel says it was an operation targeting Hamas. The Gaza medics have a different story. They're accusing Israel of war crimes. Inside the hospital premises at the time, 20 doctors, 60 nurses, and hundreds of patients. Eyewitnesses among the civilians that were sheltering there spoke of gunfire and fighting. Now, Israel says it killed a senior Hamas commander at the scene. Emerald Maxwell with this report.
Israel's military says these aerial pictures show shots being fired at Israeli soldiers from inside the al-Shifa hospital, which is once again at the centre of an Israeli military operation.
The IDF is conducting a high-precision operation in limited areas of Shifa Hospital, following concrete intelligence that demanded immediate action. We know that senior Hamas terrorists have regrouped inside the Shifa Hospital.
Eyewitnesses said Israeli forces, backed by tanks and artillery, had surrounded and raided a number of the buildings of the medical complex, which is crowded with tens of thousands of displaced people, as well as patients and medical staff, according to Gaza's health ministry. Palestinian outgoing Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh addressed the raid during a cabinet meeting.
This is a plea to humanity on Gaza and the struggles of people in Gaza, to the world leaders. How long will you remain motionless on the side of Israel, the criminal state?
The Israeli army had previously raided al-Shifa in mid-November before withdrawing. As it began its dawn incursion Monday, it published what it claimed was a conversation between an Israeli official and the director of the Gaza Health Ministry.
من وقود ومواد غذاء ومواد طبية وأدوية وقف فوري أي نشاط عسكري من المستشفيات زي ما شفنا في خان يونس.
Hamas and hospital representatives deny Israeli accusations that al-Shifa is a base for Hamas fighters. It's one of the few hospitals still partially operating in the north of the Gaza Strip, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are struggling to survive in dire humanitarian conditions.
Emerald Maxwell, our reporter. Let's get the analysis. We're joined by Veronika Poniscjakova, Senior Teaching Fellow at Portsmouth Military Education Team at the University of Portsmouth. Veronika, thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. We appreciate your time. Can you give us your take on the situation as we know it at al-Shifa? From your perspective, what are you seeing on the ground there? What do you understand is going on?
Well, what I see here is that Israel conducted a high-precision, limited assault on the hospital. Under international law, strikes on hospitals or assaults on hospitals are legal as long as there's a proof that there's a military activity conducted from these sites. As Israel says, Hamas has regrouped itself back to the hospitals, and there is concrete evidence that Hamas was present at on the site at the time of the attack. And they said they did kill a high-ranking Hamas official, operation chief from Hamas's interior ministry. So in that sense, it seems that the attack was legal from the international law perspective, and that Israel got what they tried to achieve.
Veronika, we're going into that sort of point now where people are deciding what happened, what didn't happen, whose opinion says what and whose claim is correct or not. And that's where we get into the real argument about this, because there'll be those who say that you cannot justify an attack on a hospital. But you're saying that the ends here justify the means because Israel says it found a Hamas commander and killed him.
I'm not saying that exactly. I'm just saying what the international law says. So as long as Israel can provide this evidence, then the attack was legal. And I believe, or I hope, that more concrete evidence will be made available in the next couple of days.
I apologise. I wasn't trying to infer that you were saying this. I was just trying to clarify the point in international law, and you've done that very clearly. The thing is, though, many people will be repulsed by what is happening, because if you look at the death toll, which is now well in excess of 31,000, many of those women and children, in fact, Hamas says the vast majority, women and children, this is not playing out well for Israel's military and its tactics. I know you've pointed out that there's precision in what they are doing. Nonetheless, civilians are being killed.
I can only say that, obviously, any civilian loss is absolutely deplorable, and it's sad that civilians on both sides have suffered.
I'm putting questions to you that I should really be putting to the IDF, I think. So I'll move on to ask you about the tactics they're using, because I think perhaps you can give us more on that kind of issue. What kind of problems are they facing going into the environment where they're carrying out the operation now?
I would say that one of the main issues, and well, the main reason why the attack was conducted in the first place, is that Hamas is reinvigorating itself. At the start of the war, Israel wanted to purge Hamas out of the northern Gaza first, and then move south. But it seems that Hamas is becoming stronger again in the north, or at least it hopes to achieve that by operating from al-Shifa Hospital once again. That is a worrying sign that Israel may not have achieved what it hoped to in the early stages of the war.
And just to remind people who perhaps have forgotten, this is the place where there's a huge tunnel network underneath the hospital.
Yes, even though this time around it seems that Hamas was not using the tunnels, that they seem to be operating from the hospital itself. So again, this poses a direct risk to Israeli presence and Israeli operation, hence the attack.
Now, Veronika, Hamas and the Gaza medics, of course, they're the one and the same. They are saying that what is happening represents war crimes because there were so many doctors present, so many nurses present, and so many actual patients present. Do you have anything to add on that one? Any light to throw on that?
I would just repeat what I said at the very start. As long as there's evidence that there's military presence, then the attack was justified, regardless whether there are patients or medical staff.
So we wait to see what further evidence comes from this incident to see whether that fully justifies what has happened. And of course, that will all take place in good time. In terms of the ongoing operation, Veronika, clearly there are issues here about the number of civilian casualties. A number of Western leaders have urged Benjamin Netanyahu to make sure that his troops can actually limit the number of civilians who are killed. Is that a viable proposition, do you think, given the number of people in Gaza, given the number of people taking shelter in the same places that are now coming under attack? Is it possible to limit the civilian casualties, do you think?
It's really hard to say at this moment. And one thing that I would perhaps emphasize is that the actions or the meetings that are going to take place over the next couple of days will be kind of crucial. For example, Benjamin Netanyahu is meant to speak to President Biden tonight. Also, Hamas and Israel are going to undertake further negotiations in Qatar over the next couple of days. So again, we will know more in the next couple of days.
Indeed. Head of Mossad gone to Qatar. That's the head of the Israeli Secret Service has gone there to start the ball rolling on that issue. Biden and Netanyahu, it is a strange relationship they have, isn't it? The US being Israel's chief ally and provider, but Israel carrying out things perhaps that Joe Biden is now starting to feel embarrassed by. What do you imagine Joe Biden might be urging Benjamin Netanyahu to do?
It's very likely that he's going to say what he did touch upon in his speech at the State of the Union lately, and that Israel does need to limit civilian casualties, and that more aid needs to be provided to Gaza, and which is something that Israel did say itself in the past couple of days, that they said, quote, they're going to flood Gaza with the humanitarian aid. So I think these talks will revolve around more aid and potentially any more discussions around temporary ceasefire and any kind of deal that could be achieved with Hamas.
We wait to see how that develops. Veronika, thank you for joining us. That's Veronika Poniscjakova, who is from Portsmouth Military Education Team at the University of Portsmouth, Senior Teaching Fellow. Veronika, thank you for joining us here in France 24. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.